And we are going. So, hi there. How is everybody this evening? Hopefully, you're all good. I am Jennifer, and I run Coastal Magic Convention, and we are going to have a talk tonight about jobs because I am always fascinated with the jobs that the characters in the books have. Sometimes, like if they're a detective in the story, or if they are, a bartender and the whole story takes place in the bar, that's very important to the role and the story. And sometimes people have jobs and they have whole secret identities, and the job really doesn't play too much of a part. So I'm always fascinated with how the jobs interact in the story and what your experience as authors and the jobs that you've had, how that comes into the story writing. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit, and hopefully we'll have a nice chat. So I'm going to introduce very briefly Casey Byrne and Nina Crespo to everybody, and then they're going to go into a little bit further in depth. So why don't we start with Nina, and then we'll go to Casey, and then we'll have a couple questions.
Okay. Well, hello, I'm Nina Crespo. I write from sizzling to small town sexy romance for Entangled and Harlequin romance. I've been a writer for, probably, I guess 10 years now as I think about it. My latest releases, I actually have from Harlequin and Entangled that have happened in the last 10 days or so. The Last Rule of Makeup's just released yesterday, and yay! And then my small town romance, Her Sweet Temptation, released on October 1st.
Very cool. Casey.
I'm Casey Byrne. I write gay romance. Haven't really had any new releases lately. I'm trying.
That's okay.
Yeah, writing's been a challenge lately. But and I write in the gay romance arena. I write paranormal, sci-fi, and contemporary.
So. Very cool. All of those things are going to lead us to some very interesting conversations, I think. So my very first question is about you guys, and then we'll get to your characters. First, what is your job background, your working history, shall we say, that you think might have something to play a part in your writing? What kinds of things have you done in your working past that you feel like either have given you some information that has made it into a book, or some stories about a workplace or a co-worker that you think might have come into the story? Where do you get your working inspiration for your stories? Either one. Casey, go ahead, jump in.
Go ahead, Casey.
All right, sure. I actually have a very dull working background, in my opinion. I spent a lot of years in retail while I was going through high school and university. And then I moved into an office job where I ended up teaching myself HTML, and from there went into the web space anyway, not full on development, but sort of website maintenance. And that's pretty much been, the projection of my career, such as it is. But I've always wanted to be a writer. So I always kind of knew I wanted something just, stable to work at that would allow me to write.
Right.
But 14 years in retail, 9 of those was as a pharmacy technician. So I had a lot of peripheral integration with, healthcare.
Right.
And also just a lot of interesting people who would come into the drugstore.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. So there was that, piece of it. But I also have 2 degrees that have absolutely nothing to do with anything I've done to get paid for. So that, to me, that's actually been a lot more useful in my opinion for my writing. I have a degree in physical anthropology, so that actually covered off things like paleontology, evolutionary biology, forensic anthropology. I did a lot of osteology, There's all sort of stuff that came under that. A
Many,
little bit of
many
archaeology.
ologies.
Yeah, many ologies. But they're like little tastes of different things, you know, that I was able to draw on for a lot of writing stuff. And then I have a degree in medieval history, which focuses on the Viking invasions. So
Nice.
neither of which I have gotten paid to do anything with, but you know, there's a lot of little things that I've certainly drawn on in my books from you know, primarily from my retail history and also from my degrees. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, Miss Nina.
Well, I think definitely I draw from my background in hospitality management. So the management of clubs and bars and restaurants and hotels. So those have a tendency to show up in my book, as well as solo entrepreneurship, particularly with the heroines, you know, wanting them to either have their own businesses or they're aspiring to do that, or they're in some sort of management position where they're in charge.
Right.
So that definitely is something that I try to incorporate in the books from my background.
Fantastic. Very cool. Okay, so we'll start back with Nina. What is one real life story that has either in full or in some version with, you know, writing embellishments, shall we say, has made it into your stories?
Starting with me?
Yes, I'm starting with you.
Okay. Well, I have to admit, my first book, Take Me If You Dare, where the heroine is in a hotel bar and she's being hit on with guys who are just like delivering all these cheesy lines. So, you know, particularly working in a bar and being able to sit back and just observe. I have observed this happen where guys have been shot down one after the other after the other.
Goodness.
They show up with these terrible lines or they just don't have a chance for whatever reason. Right. So that observation definitely made it into that first book.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's probably something that not only can people relate to, but we all have some variation of hystericalness in our past that will come into. How about you, Casey? Any particular thing that made it into a book?
You know, off the top of my head, I'm sure there's lots, but to be honest, but one thing that definitely comes to mind, I wrote a Christmas story a few years back where the main character worked in a drugstore. Like he was basically me, except, you know, he got paid better and was treated better. But, you know, because like I never had the manager title, for instance, but like I hired people, I trained people, I fired people, I did all the banking, I did all the ordering, like, you know, I did all the scheduling, like, but never got, you know, the title for it. You know, but anyway, so basically one of the things though that working in retail environment, it totally soured me on Christmas. You know, I'm just like I've never been a particularly sentimental person to begin with, but you know, the whole Christmas thing was just a lot. And of course, growing up in Canada, our Thanksgiving is a lot earlier. Right. So really, like there would be sort of this commercial thing leading up to Halloween, and then November 1st was Christmas. Right now, I'm seeing that more here now. Right. But when I first moved to the States, there was this gap for Thanksgiving. You know, we had a little bit of the Christmas season wasn't quite as long. Right. You know, so one of the things that I did in the drugstore is we had this big area that you couldn't put actual product on to sell because it wasn't stable enough. But it was like this big empty area. So I built this thing out of styrofoam, this giant house out of styrofoam to do like a haunted house, you know, painted it, and, you know, I got like cheap hay bales and stuff like that. That was light enough to put on this big thing that went over the stairwell. And then right on October 31st, I would stay late and I would change it over so it was a Christmas scene, right?
Right.
And so this is one of the things that I end up talking about, and I had this poor schmuck do in my book, this Christmas book. So, yeah.
I think it's interesting that you wrote a Christmas book without really being, all that much into Christmas. But that's good. That's good that you did that, though.
Well, I mean, I actually did it as a sort of tribute to A Christmas Carol, which I do enjoy that concept,
Gotcha.
So that was, and my husband loves Christmas, and he always tries to,
Gotcha.
get me to,
embrace it.
unscrooge.
Gotcha. Okay, so now we'll talk about the characters and their jobs, their work. In your books, the characters, is the job that they do, like what they get a paycheck for? Is that the main thing there, the part of the story that everybody sees? Because I've seen some books where like the main character, is some, vigilante going after these crime, people that are doing these crimes, but their actual job is like working at Walgreens or something, and that's really not part of the story. So I'm like, how did you end up giving this person this job when it has nothing to do with the story? So like I said, that always fascinates me when people make those decisions. So in your stories, do the jobs that the characters do, is that part of the story? Is that integral to the story? And how did you choose that? Or is it just kind of a secondary thing? Casey, we'll start with you and then we'll go back to Nina.
Okay. Well, sometimes it is integral and sometimes it isn't. Like, I mean, It really just depends on the story and the character, like I've had ones where I'm just like, okay, I just need to have a job that sounds tremendously dull because this dude is in a really crappy time in his life and he doesn't have a job that interests him and she doesn't have, like friends or family or whatever, so it's all miserable and I just need to pull something out of the hat that's miserable. I don't need to know the ins and the outs of that job. It just needs to sound deadly dull, and that in that case, the job itself is not really important.
Right.
But one of the more recent books that I had out banded together where I've got a retired punk rocker essentially going back to school. And he ends up falling in love with one of his professors. So it's the teacher-student thing, but the student is actually older and more experienced than the teacher. So it's kind of like a little spin on it, but the teacher specific, like the professor specifically, that's an important job for him to have because it's supposed to be a play on this, teacher-student dynamic. So
Gotcha. And if he wasn't a teacher, they would not be in the position that they're in.
Yeah, it wouldn't have the conflict around that piece of it. Yeah. So
Gotcha. How about you, Nina?
Well, with the Tilbridge series, definitely, because it involves a family that owns a horse stable. So
Gotcha.
horse stable and what they do, definitely an integral part of it. For instance, in book 1, she's an actress and that plays into it because there's a film being shot on the property. Then book 2, Her Sweet Temptation, there's a cafe and, the hero is involved with helping her do some things at the cafe. So job's definitely integral
Gotcha.
and intricate part of it. And then with The Last Rule of Makeups, the hero is a DJ. And so the plot is very much driven by some things that have happened in his career and some choices that he has to make. So in those cases, yes, their jobs are very much a part of it. But there have been other stories where, the job isn't as much of a central part of the plot. So it just depends.
Just depends. Gotcha. I've read books where you never know where people are getting their money. Like you read the whole book and you have no idea how like they're paying their rent or buying groceries because nobody's going to work. So how does this happen? I need that job.
On the other hand, you have ones where you're like, they say what they're doing and I'm like, do they make that much money? I don't really, I need to quit my day job and pick up that one because they're clearly doing better than I would have thought, so.
Well, like I said, sometimes I just think that maybe I need to change my job, because if I can go fight crime and never have to work and still have money, that'd be fantastic. So if you could have a job that one of your characters has from your books, would you? And if so, what job would it be?
Okay, don't ask me first.
Okay.
Because I have to think about that.
I think that was just Casey's version of not it.
Not it. She's passing that on.
She beat you to it, Nina.
I know. It's like, wow, I should have jumped on that answer. Well, I actually, with the last rule of makeups, Corey manages a fund that is, how do I explain it? It's a fund that is contributed to by angel investors. And so she's responsible for finding the candidates for the angel investors to get their money.
Mm-hmm.
And so that to me was just very intriguing in terms of being an angel investor and being able to help people build their businesses. So if that would be something that would intrigue me to run a fund.
That is very cool. Very cool. Okay, your not it has expired.
And it's a less interesting answer too. So yeah, great, good job.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
No, I've written a couple professors. They've done different things, and honestly I think that's probably what I had actually thought I was going to do at one point in my life. And then
okay, cool.
And then I met a man. Of course, that's always trouble.
Would you have been a professor of one of your ologies? Which ology?
Yeah, actually, well, what I really wanted to do was go into Neanderthal studies. But then once I realized that not only do you need to get, master's and PhD, you'd probably have to kill someone on a faculty to open up a position. Because there's no money in Neanderthal studies. Yeah, so that was really what I was sort of looking at originally, and then I just like, and then I started thinking about forensics, but I actually got into the forensic anthropology part of it at the wrong time. Like it was just starting to become a really significant field.
Gotcha.
And I would have had to put my schooling on hold for 4 years in order to catch up with the courses that they were developing to do the postgraduate stuff. And it just didn't seem feasible. So
gotcha.
I let that go and ended up just drifting into IT.
Well, there you go. There you go. Okay, so let's flip it. If any of the characters that you have written, which one of them would you trust to take your job as the writer?
My job as the writer, like as in like
who would you trust to write your books? Like you're gonna swap for a day, and they're gonna write, and you're gonna go do something else. Who would you trust to write your story for you?
Is it terrible? I have no idea. And I feel like I must have written a writer at some point in my life, but can't think of one.
Well, you've got a lot of professors. Any of them you think have the skills to do it? Probably not.
No. In fact, my archaeology professor, he's very grouchy, sort of, anti-people, sort of antisocial.
So maybe that's what you need to do. Maybe you need to write a writer. That would be interesting.
I don't know. I almost feel like that's the easy way out.
Oh, but I like to read stories about authors and writers and books.
And I do too, to be honest. Like I do like that, but it always feels when I do it, it feels like I'm taking the easy way out because I'm an author, and so clearly that's just easy to write.
Gotcha. Well, I don't know. We'll see. We may have to revisit that. I may nudge you
Okay, hold on a sec. Nina, do you have somebody you could?
Well, I'm coming. She's not getting out of this. We're getting to her. We're getting to her.
That's so well. I just wanted to just give you that moment.
No, trust me. You were not forgotten, my dear. You were not forgotten.
That was a hard question.
Oh, I'm sorry. It wasn't supposed to be hard.
I mean, for me, actually, I think in the Cowboys Claim, Chloe, she's an actress and she has ambitions to move up in the industry. So I think she would be the one that I would trust with the storytelling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I can see an actor would be a good storyteller because that's what they're doing. They're just not doing it with words.
Yeah.
So that would be cool. That would be cool. So what is, I think Casey already answered this a little bit because you were saying that you thought that you might be a professor and then you met a man and now you are writing and you always wanted to write too. Nina, was there something that you wanted to do aside from writing when you were younger? Some job that you thought you might have and now we're lucky enough to have you doing this instead?
Honestly, no. Because I mean, when I was when I was younger and people used to say, choose your job, I would look at them, and of course they're like my age now, and I would look at them and think, if I'm going to grow up to be as old as you, I want to do as many jobs as possible. So I don't want to do just one. I want to do many things. And so that's kind of been my philosophy in life. I mean, even though I consider writing something that I will do until the wheels fall off and I can't do it any longer. Yeah, I don't think that there's really anything that I would look at and say that's what I wanted to do in terms of characters. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Was there anything else besides being a professor and a writer, Casey? Was there anything else that you thought might be a possibility?
I mean, well, so like I knew I wanted to be a writer when I was 10 years old.
Right.
I decided at that early. The
cool.
professor thing came later, and I was kind of like, well, I need to make money somehow while I'm doing this writing gig.
Gotcha.
But earlier than that, I totally wanted to be Wonder Woman. Just saying.
Nice. Very nice. And thanks to many cosplay outlets, you can still be Wonder Woman.
This is true. I know I'd look like Wonder Woman totally right now, but
you would absolutely, absolutely. All you need is a cape and attitude.
That's right.
And a lasso. That's true.
That's right.
And a lasso.
That's a whole different kind of story, though.
We can. And then there's that. Yes.
Write that one.
There you go. There you go. So now you're going to write the writer story and the Wonder Woman with a lasso story. There we go. So we got both of those coming. All right. So I wanted to try to do around 30 minutes, and we're right at like 26 minutes. So why don't we finish up our nice little chat with what you each have coming up next for readers to read, and what your plans are for between now and February for when Coast of Magic comes out. So if you have any new releases coming out, if you have any other events that you're doing virtual chats for, anything like that you think that the readers will be interested in between now and February. So why don't we'll start with Nina and then go to Casey.
Okay. Well, in terms of events, well, right now, of course, is the new release events that are going on. So
right.
If you check out my social media feeds, you'll see different things that are going on in terms of articles and giveaways and those sort of things.
Yeah, and we'll post links to all the social media stuff with a video.
Yeah. And so Friday, there is a author cocktail hour that I'm doing with Entangled Publishing. So that would be really cool for people to come out and chat with us there, because we'll be reading excerpts of our stories.
Nice.
So to hear some things there. As far as releases, I do have a release coming out the end of January, I believe.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, so
I appreciate you releasing that in time for Coastal Magic. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So the Cowgirls surprise match will be coming out at that time.
Perfect. All right, Casey, what have we got coming on with you?
Oh, not much. No, It has been slow, but I am bound and
But you're
determined
writing,
to.
yeah.
Yeah, I am writing. I am bound and determined to have a sequel to North on Drummond before Coastal Magic.
Fantastic.
It's gonna be called West on Granger, and
Very cool. I know many
it's
people who will be very excited about that.
it's going to involve ghosts rather than psychics this time. So
Interesting. Interesting. And so do we have any fun new workplace shenanigans planned in either one of in that book or in your next book, Nina? Any kind of job related interesting stories coming up?
well,
Well, the Cowgirls surprise match is just that. She's at the stable, and there's going to be some things going on. And actually, in her case, she is having to step back from the job so that she can relax and not be so stressed out. So she volunteers to plan a wedding, of all things. so
that's not stressful
no
at
stress.
all.
No stress there.
Don't know how that happened, but it did. So that's it.
Okay, Casey.
So the main character, one of the protagonists in West on Granger is one of the many jobs he does is lead ghost walking tours.
Very cool.
That's sort of where the ghost piece of it's going to come in.
Right. I've been on a couple of ghost tours and they're super fun.
Yeah, well, we went to one. We were in St. Augustine, I believe.
Yep.
That first year, I think I went on.
Yeah, the very first year of Coastal Magic, we had one night where we rented transportation from because it was in St. Augustine in Florida, and so we rented the transportation from one of the local ghost tours to come over and pick people up at our hotel and take them on ghost tours. It was so fun. Yeah, that was really cool.
And then I've done one since in New Orleans, and I think I did one in Ottawa. Anyway, so
cool. Well, that'll be fun. There'll be some workplace shenanigans to look forward to.
There will definitely be workplace shenanigans.
Fantastic. And I can't imagine that the wedding will go off without a hitch. So there'll be, I feel like there's going to be workplace shenanigans aplenty. All right. Okay. Well, this was fun. Like I said, it's one of the things that I really enjoy when I read. It's one of those kind of oddball side things that you don't really think about a whole lot. And then once you start thinking about it, you like really contemplate it. So I appreciate you guys both sharing a little bit about your work history and how that work relates to how you write and things like that. I had a nice time chatting with you. So thank you for doing that. And we will see both of you in the cyberverse between now and February for Coastal Magic Things. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Night.